Go watch the turret video before this starts.
Welcome to the Casual Coders Podcast. My name is Chandler. I'm here with Ian and Kyle.
Hello.
And today's going to be a little bit different because today, instead of discussing random crap, we're actually going to discuss a very specific topic. And that specific topic is the creation of our viral automatic airsoft turret.
Woot woot.
So,
What the heck is an airsoft turret? I assume it's just I played airsoft before.
is an airsoft effectively it's an airsoft gun mounted to some motors that aims itself.
Do these exist already?
They have in the past. So when I was a kid, I was just shitting around on the internet or whatever, and I found this website called Project Sentry Gun. And what Project Sentry Gun makes, they made these plans and these designs to use an Arduino and some servo motors and some other stuff to build automatic airsoft turrets. All right, so the automatic airsoft turret that is sitting right in front of me, actually.
This
Ian,
is it in the flesh.
Yes, this is it in the flesh. So Ian did the mechanical design.
That would be me. That's correct.
And we had a few iterations of the airsoft gun.
Yeah, I think there were 3.
Yeah.
Almost exactly, which is sort of funny because that's exactly how many Adam Savage in his book tells you to plan for.
Really?
Plan for 3 iterations of any given project.
Very convenient that we had 3 iterations.
It seems to go down. Autoblind's version 3 is probably going to be the last version. This is on version 3 as well.
Well,
there's
the gun
sort of
itself.
A trend.
So we've been talking about a V2, but we can get
code
to
is
that
maybe
later.
a little different because it's just sort
That
of
too.
repeated testing.
Well, there's code, the gun, and then also the mounting system of it. Because this mounting system was like your first try.
Yeah, I just sort of went with it.
Yeah, that was also a super simple mounting system.
It's a very simple mounting system. There are no screws.
The
or anything
body
holding
is
that
literally
on.
one of the motors. Like, it is as simple as it gets when it comes to designs.
Yeah, right. I
So
mean,
it-
it was sort of supposed to be simple, though, right?
so
Easy
describe-
to print, simple to build, simple to make.
So describe each of the different parts for our audio listeners then.
All right, so there's a base, which is basically just a single motor, which gets connected to a couple of legs to help with some stability. From that comes a little fork. That little fork goes up off the main base motor and holds the second motor for, I guess, pitch, up and down translation.
Yeah, so we have pitch and we have I
pitch
called
and
it
yaw.
Yeah, we have pitch and yaw. I called it X and Y because I'm used to the CNC/3D printer world, but that is incorrect because it is turning. It is not moving.
Yeah, they're rotational axes.
Straight.
I think this would technically be the Z axis, the bottom motor that faces upwards.
Yeah, technically, I believe
is
you're
rotating around the Z
You're right,
axis.
but it's not what I used.
And
but
X
whatever.
and Y are sort of arbitrary. It doesn't really make a difference.
But the reason why I used X and Y is because when I'm programming and I have an image, X and Y is what I'm using for determining where to aim it.
Yeah, right. So you can give it a set of XY coordinates to go to.
Yeah.
In a roundabout sense.
But yeah, so connected to that fork, there's the motor that adjusts the pitch of the turret. From there, the motor is attached to a little airsoft gun device that Ian designed that effectively on the top of it is a 2-liter bottle that's filled with airsoft BBs, which we super glued / hot glued little eyes to because we thought it was funny. It was a viewer suggestion. And then on the back of it is a solenoid, which is hooked up to a standard air compressor line and then can be computer controlled. And then on the front of it is the actual barrel, which we ripped out of an airsoft gun that we have now since basically thrown away because we destroyed everything about it.
It was pretty rough.
It was very bad. And then underneath the barrel mounted is a standard cheapo Walmart Logitech C310 USB webcam. That is how the turret aims.
That's its one eye. It's a Cyclops.
Yes, it is a Cyclops. It is a single eye. Although it would be
Well,
really...
then why do we have 2 googly eyes on it? We should have put one.
Because it's funny.
No, you got one. You got to be realistic.
That
bro.
way when it's like shaking around like this, see the googly eyes shake.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went through the software. While this has a very hardware aspect to it, and you guys have seen the hardware aspect, this was actually more of a software project than it was a hardware project.
That is sort of the nature of this beast, yeah. Trying to control a physical thing with code. The physical thing is maybe a little easier to make. I don't know how long you spent
I definitely
on
think
the
it's
code
50-50.
exactly.
You think it's 50-50?
The software engineer thinks it's all computer. The hardware engineer thinks, it could be all software.
Honestly,
he gives benefit of doubt, and I think it's 50-50 as one who does both.
I'll split it 50-50 too. Yeah, we spent a whole day
We did spend
refining the design on the gun, and
For-
then
yeah.
additional time printing and reiterating some components for the motors and the motion system there.
So So as
and
of
just slap the rest of the stuff sort of together. Plus, there's electrical hardware that you worked on that I didn't touch.
So for our viewers who came from the mainline channel video, it was a little clear in the video, at least to me. I guess it may not be obvious to everyone. It took us many months to build this.
Yeah, when did we start this
We started this project back in March.
Yeah, okay.
And it is currently
Presently
2
the end of
days.
May.
It is the end of May. Memorial Day is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you guys are probably not seeing the actual video until the end of June. So,
yeah, assuming everything goes to plan, yeah.
Yeah. But the last kind of bit of this project kind of was the big push. We spent like 2 weeks working on the gun almost. And we spent like a week working on the mechanical system, and then I took like months developing the software.
I personally feel like the software could have gone a little faster.
Correct.
It's pretty simple software if we're being dead honest.
So
I think.
It's a little complicated than
it's
that.
not like this is our full-time job either.
Well, yeah, like this is a part-time job. And that's the main reason why it took so long was because of work and everything. It was all over the place.
We get a weekend and a few hours every once in a while to work on projects. It's not like we have literally days to devote to just a single thing.
Now, if you want to make that happen, you guys should totally
watch
the channel more. Let us know. Buy some merch. I don't know.
We don't have merch yet.
Not as of this video.
We do technically have merch. Just I guess if you've got PS4 controllers, I don't know. You could buy that and never use one. I don't know.
It's fine.
Yeah, you need to make a PS4 circuit board.
Yeah, you need a circuit board for your PS4 controller. Support us directly. So speaking of supporting us, that's one thing that we keep getting asked. Are we going to make a kit for this? Are we going to sell these?
I want to, but the logistics of that are just so difficult. Like, what do you sell? Do we have to purchase stepper motors and sell those with the kit and resell Raspberry Pis and webcams and brake line?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Like, yeah, the answer is probably yes. The only thing that probably doesn't make sense to provide is a 2-liter bottle.
Yeah, so we definitely could sell these. The reason why we don't want to is because, one, for this to make any sense for us, we're going to have to spend crap loads of money initially, which we don't have. And then we're going to have to spend, and then the consumers will have to spend another crap load of money to get a hold of one of these.
Each of these kits, I think, I'm just going to throw some estimates out here. I think all the parts combined for this take between 12 and 24 hours to print. So that's a day of print time on a print farm.
Yeah. Which we don't have. We would have Ian's 3D printer.
Yeah, right. So whatever, call it $10 for the printed parts, or realistically, it's probably more like 20.
That's not even that's not even close to the most expensive part of this entire project.
Solenoid's another 10, so make it 30. The webcam is 10, so there's 40.
Well, the webcam was we're gonna say 10 because we can get a cheap ass Chinese webcam that would do just as well for 10.
Okay, so we'll call that 10. We're at 40 now. The motors.
Oh, the motors are expensive.
Those
are not cheap.
These are very expensive ones, just based on the AliExpress relisting. They're listed on Ali, I think, for $500 each, but that is a very inflated, incorrect cost.
I think
a realistic price for each of those motors would probably be
$20-30.
$20 or $30.
Yeah,
we could round it.
$20 or $30 each, so it'd be like $60.
80 on top of the 40 that we already have puts
Yeah.
us up to.
The solenoid was 30.
No, the solenoid was 10.
Oh, okay, whatever. I thought we spent more on it, but that's fine. What was 30 was the 3 motor drivers that we had to buy for it.
Yeah, so you'd need 2 motor drivers at $10 each.
Which they come in a 3-pack.
140. 3-pack wouldn't be an issue if we're reselling it.
That's true. So there's 140, and then here's the biggest issue:
the unobtainable Raspberry Pi.
The unobtainable Raspberry Pi. Okay, so
that's a 3 because you can't run it on a 0. So you're looking at another $100.
At least a Pi 3, preferably a Pi 3 0W2 is what I wanted to run it on, or what I wanted to target. But we couldn't get a hold of one.
Our local Micro Center received 2 since the beginning of the year. That's
2.
2.
Now, there's tons of Pi Zero, or at least our Micro Center had tons of Pi Zeros. I believe they are sold out now.
When we were in there, we bought like 2 of the last 4, I think.
Yeah, so they're sold out now. We have a couple of Pi Zeros just because we like having them, and we do use them for different projects, but the software is too complicated to run. It needs at least...
Realistically, you could run it on a Pi 4. Could you get away with a gigabyte?
Oh, definitely.
So then the Pi 4...
It runs on a 1 gig model now.
I was at a Micro Center in... insert large city is somewhere in state, and they had a whole pile of Pi 4s, the 1 gigabyte models, and I think they were priced at MSRP. So
well, Micro Center is usually really good about that.
Yeah, call it $35-$40, whatever.
We definitely could run it off of.
So I mean, just to us, the kit costs $200.
You can only buy one per person. So we would have to go in. buy a Pi 4, send in our next friend, buy a Pi 4, and then rinse and repeat.
We'd have to hire people off the street to go buy their stock of Pi 4s.
It would be logistically questionable, if not impossible right now.
Legally questionable too, maybe?
Yes, legally questionable as well.
The kit for this would probably look like $300.
Minimum.
Because
you're also not including them owning a power supply.
Shipping. Yeah.
Well, that's also
supplies.
Assuming we retool this so that an average person can run it.
I mean, theoretically, we could retool it with the Pi hat or the Auto Blinds hat if we can get this right. But, I mean, again, now you're not even including, like, air compressors, air compressor line. Do you have the right fittings and all of that? Because there's a quarter-inch air compressor nipple on the back here. It's another, like, $10 brass part.
Yeah. So one of the other things I wanted to discuss in this, because I don't know, I think it'd be interesting, is that what would we want from a version 2 if we were to make a version 2 of this device, which I'm not saying we won't. I'm just saying that in the near future, it's unlikely.
You already know what I want.
I know what I want as well. I would like to discuss it with the audience.
Yeah, I know what I want as well.
All right. I want Kyle, because Kyle has been acting more as tech support than as like a lead designer on this project. So I want to know his opinion on what we would want added, because Kyle helped me a bit out with the code and a bit out with the electronics, but that's really all on this project he's done. Well, and all the filming basically.
Woot woot. So I'm the one who enabled people to be able to see the cool thing that you guys did.
Yeah, cameraman Kyle. Wait, hold up.
Yeah, so one, I think that the motors are totally overpowered, and so if we wanted to cut on price there, we could, and also would cut on weight, which is kind of nice.
So you would use like NEMA 14 instead of NEMA.
These are 23s.
Yeah,
probably
NEMA 17s instead of NEMA.
I feel like a NEMA 14 would be too small.
Yeah, that's a question we've got. Are you guys using like Ender 3 stepper motors? And we're like, no, we're not. We're using way larger. They're close, but they're bigger.
But they're bigger, yeah.
More expensive.
If it's a V2, I think that you might even be able to have this bottle be way smaller, and also part of the 3D print is an option, but also it doesn't need to be
I
this
don't
big.
see the point of that, because you can get a 2-liter bottle for 99 cents versus hours upon hours of print time.
And that comes with soda.
And yeah, right, exactly. The 2-liter bottle is a cheap, convenient, and easy solution.
Well, that, and even not just a 2-liter, we could always retool it for other bottle types.
Maybe I should have said this in a different order, because also one of my changes would be to make it powered off of CO2 canisters instead of airlines. And if it's a CO2 canister cannot go through an entire 2-liter of BBs, I don't think.
No, there's no way.
Would not be able to.
Yeah.
However,
your CO2 canister is going to be very limited either way.
So my V2 would not use a CO2 canister like you're thinking of the little tiny ones, the 9 or 10
the
grain
9
ones.
and 12 gram CO2 cartridges.
Yeah, the gram ones. I'm thinking of more like, what if we retooled it to use like a paintball canister?
I guess one of the larger.
Yeah, no, I have a
bottles,
canister. It's about this tall, and it holds like 40 ounces of CO2, which I don't know how much that is like realistically, but I was able to go
Can you convert quickly ounces to pounds? We'll call it 48 just for
it's a 10 pound.
10 pound?
Oh yeah, it's like 10 pounds.
No, pounds. Scuba tanks are measured in pounds. So a typical aluminum scuba tank is an 80-pound tank. There's also 60-pound tanks and 40s, and then your smaller pony bottles. Like
is that what they are full?
It's pounds of air.
Oh,
so it holds
no.
80
These
pounds
things,
of air.
These hold, now they're small, but they hold high pressure air. They hold like 150 psi air.
150 psi is far from high pressure, but I'm used to
high air pressure.
I'm used to 3,000 psi in a bottle. So
well, yeah. But either way, this is high enough pressure that this would like 100 psi air, like we were using, would be laughing. Like that's nothing compared to what these tanks would output unless we added a regulator, which of course we would for safety reasons.
Yeah, there's also an issue with CO2 cartridges being at 800 psi.
Yeah, so we would have to either way with either design, we'd have to use a regulator. But I think
I guess a single CO2 cartridge would pop the solenoid instantly.
It would.
It's rated for pop 100 at most, I think. And
which also the solenoid is designed. I'm pretty sure if it pops, it doesn't destroy it. It just will push up the solenoid piston, and then it would just shoot
cool. So
out.
you'll just immediately plug in a CO2 cartridge and it shoots out a billion BBs. Yeah,
cool. But yeah, we'd have to add a regulator of some kind, so there's an additional design thing. And
cost.
While I like using the Pi, and I would consider using a Pi of some kind, I would not use a Pi 3. I would use a Pi 0W, and I would use a Pi 0W with a Pi cam. And me and Kyle and I think Alex might have been in the call too talking about it, where we would replace this webcam would be the webcam and the computer, because you can get little Pi Zero cases that have the camera like right in the center, and we would just mount it right here, and then it would be both right there, and then we just run the wires to the motor drivers, which ideally, I agree with Kyle, I would rather use smaller 3D printer style motor drivers instead of those chonky industrial CNC ones that we're using.
Yeah, I wish we had one on the table, but oh well.
You can go grab one. But is it hooked up to wires and stuff? Don't bother.
No. Oh wait, it is. Shoot, you're right. Never mind.
It's fine. But we have these big chunky motor drivers that they were $10 a piece. They weren't expensive, but they're huge and they're capable of outputting like 5 amps.
They're going to be good for prototyping and working on projects like this in the future, but
they're not going to be good. They're not practical.
They're just not
for
necessary.
Use. No,
practical,
they're not.
Sure. It depends. They're huge. Yeah,
they're great. Yeah, they're great for
not,
prototyping. They're not good for production, is what I would say.
Well, they're great for production of a CNC machine.
I guess that's fair, but we're not going to be building one of those for a little while. I want to build one eventually, but that's another podcast episode.
I would not be
Kyle's
surprised.
Attic into a CNC machine.
Turn what?
Turn Kyle's attic into a CNC machine.
A massive CNC machine?
Just we can bolt 80/20.
No, we got to do the hang printer.
We'll talk. Hang printer?
It's a printer that hangs from the ceiling and prints onto the floor.
Yeah, the room becomes the print area or the print volume.
I want to build one, but anyway, we can get to that in another episode. But yeah, so let's go on a deep dive into how the software works, because many people have been asking me, because it sounds like, at least from our TikTok comments, that people have tried and failed this project, and the number one reason that they can't get it done is because of the software, at least from what I've read.
There are at least quite a few of them that I've seen that have succeeded also. But
you have seen a few that have succeeded?
OpenCV guides on, I don't know. But
so,
I get it.
But
it's
here's the thing. It took me
least.
a few days of digging in OpenCV to get it right.
Yeah, OpenCV is complicated if it's like your first time using it.
Yeah, so it wasn't my first time using OpenCV. It still took me a few days of digging and everything to get it perfect. So how the turret works is that, like I said, it is using OpenCV, the finest freely available software on the internet. And then from there, it uses a technique that it basically has like a range of colors, which we're not using RGB, we're using HSV. It has this range of colors, and then with that range of colors, it will then pick out little blobs. It'll mask it out, so there'll be basically anything within the color range will be a 1, anything outside of the color range will be a 0 in a matrix of pixels. From that matrix of pixels, it does what's called blob detection, where it finds the largest cluster of them. And then that largest cluster, it gets the center of that cluster, and that's a target. And then from there, it tries to center that target by moving the axis up and down and left and right.
So technically, you can disarm this turret by having 2 people who are wearing that color equidistant apart and moving towards the turret slowly, and then is able to disable it.
The reason why I'm going to say no, well, maybe. And in theory, it won't shoot. It'll just be like, and it can't figure out a target.
No, it'll take the average if they're both in frame.
No. I fixed that. It doesn't do that anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it doesn't take the average. Now, instead, it just picks the largest one.
Ah, cool.
So
the
now
biggest threat, obviously.
The biggest threat. Literally the biggest threat. So if you have a slightly chunky friend, put him in front of it first.
Yeah, that's good for me. I'm thin, right? Wear my red shirt, be nice and thin.
Ian just has to turn to the one side, and then he's invisible to the turret.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
But yeah, it's in the biggest, one of the pitfalls of programming, especially programming in Python, that I fell into, is believing that Python's threading library was actually starting new Python processes. So currently how the turret works is that it has 3 threads. I think I am only running it on 3, right? No, I'm running it on 3 processes, but 4 threads is what I'm running it on. And the explanation for that is that each motor gets its own Python process to process movement inputs, and then the camera detection is actually running on one process. But then inside of the camera process, there's 2 threads. One thread is getting the camera asynchronously, and the other thread is actually doing the image processing and deciding when to shoot. From there, when I first developed this, everything was running on a single Python process. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, and for a lot of applications, that's plenty, the problem is that we were running into what's called a global interpreter lock bottleneck. And this is something I wanted to write about on the Casual Coders blog, which I probably will. And the global interpreter lock basically bottlenecks you to how fast Python can interpret instructions. Because at the end of the day, Python is an interpreted language. It's very, very bottlenecked by the interpreter. And that's why it's so slow. And that's why but that's also why Python's so easy to program, is because you're interpreting pseudocode as instructions. Now, the global interpreter lock was causing the turret to do this. It was basically, it would see a target, it would move, stop, move, stop. And it was so slow. It was not fast at all. Now, did it detect targets? Yes, it definitely did. I got it to target a red cloth that me and Kyle had at my house when we were testing it. However, we wanted it to be faster than that. And now we were able to be, via the magic of multi-threading and using multiple Python processes. Now it is like not lightning fast, but it's way faster than it was.
I don't know. I think it's a pretty useless turret if your target is just running across screen and it's just
it doesn't do that as bad anymore. It doesn't. It's pretty smooth now. But even then, you can outrun it. Most people would be able to outrun it.
Although you could like set it down and know that someone's over there, and then reposition yourself to like.
Yeah, I see this not so much as an actual offensive tool. I would see this more as a defensive tool of alerting the presence of other people and attempting to eliminate them while probably failing.
Or you could like use it to protect your flowers from deer or something.
Oh, I had a few people in the comments want to do. No, I had some guys say, "Can you hook this up to a shotgun?"
Oh my god,
that's a felony.
He wants to use it to shoot deer. Oh, I have a story about that too.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, one of my big goals that would be for maybe not a V2 that we would sell, but a V2 that we would keep. One, I want to make this thing way fucking bigger.
That's fair. Yeah.
I want to make this
thing. Can we put like 6 barrels on one, you think?
Well, let me finish.
You guys are the opposite. I'm like, let's make it like super small and we can maybe even like put it on a drone. And you guys are like, no, let's like chonk it.
I want this to be in the bed of a pickup truck.
Supersize me.
No, basically when I had thought of this turret, I was thinking of one more along the size of, it's like 4 feet-ish tall, and like it has like either a Nerf gun or some other type of airsoft gun on top of it. And my thought was, okay, well, for a V2, maybe instead of doing all the processing locally, what if we took advantage of the cloud and we streamed the video to the cloud? That video got processed by a proper AI, and then target detection was done that way.
Mm-hmm.
My fear is speeds, but
now that being said,
maybe
we would have.
Do you have internet in the middle of a field?
Yeah, that too.
Well, cellular exists, and while the latency is not the best,
what is your ping looking at there? How many milliseconds?
100
50,
probably.
100?
100.
Is that enough?
I don't know. Now,
Yeah.
the other option is we could try to get a hold of a NVIDIA Jetson Nano, but that's going to be very difficult to do.
Hey, NVIDIA.
Hey, any of our viewers who are really nice. But
how much are Jetsons? I know they're pretty expensive.
They're impossible to find. They're not that expensive. They're only $100 if you can find one at MSRP.
If you can find one, yeah.
If you can find one, that's the problem.
I mean, that's true, yeah. You can find
Micro Center sells them.
Or a Jetson, yeah.
Micro Center sells them, but I just couldn't find one recently.
Hold on, let's take a look.
If we could find one, I would totally, but then that would have the GPU horsepower to actually run the proper AI, which is what I originally wanted to use. I originally wanted this to actually be a true AI-powered device. And then we can collaborate with Mr. Michael Reeves. We can mount this to the back of your robot dog.
Oh, it's broken right now. That's funny.
It is broken, yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be really cool to have a proper AI. And the proper AI would actually detect humans. And then with the actual proper human detection, it would then determine what team of the airsoft match that they're on. Mm-hmm. And then from there, do target detection. And that way, instead of labeling targets like, oh, I see 3 targets, and then it doesn't differentiate which one to shoot at. Instead, if we used a proper AI, we could be like, all right, that's target 1 because they're the first ones I saw. That's target 2 because they're the second ones I saw, and do proper target engagement ordering. That would be my like ideal software goal.
I mean, you could probably do that right now with your current Pi, but the biggest thing would be the smoothing, in my opinion.
And the smoothing is also needs to be fixed. But I think that if we have proper target acquisition, it would be a little bit better.
I mean, we have enough tools at our disposal. You could possibly make some changes and add an additional microcontroller to allow for smoothing, right? So your Raspberry Pi is running mostly just the AI stuff, and then you outsource to like, I don't know.
Well, that's originally what I wanted to do.
Or whatever, and then the ESP32 deals with the stepper driver control and all of that, so you can give the ESP32 maybe smaller commands.
Why are we stopping at an ESP? Stuff. Why are we stopping at a Pi then? What if we find a Jetson Nano and the ESP32 it just ad hocs to the ESP?
Yeah.
And then just beams the commands that way. But anyway,
I thought that
we make an ESP32 mesh network and we have like 18 of the things all cluster computing together to generate. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Hive mind.
Yeah.
I thought that the bottleneck is not the commands that we're sending. The bottleneck is the speed of the Pi being able to recognize the number of frames per second, because I'm pretty sure it only can measure at like 100 milliseconds it takes to like process in a full image.
Yeah, how long what is your frame rate, I guess, is probably the correct...
10.
10?
10 FPS, yeah, is roughly what it was. It was originally 1.
Then
this is a 10x improvement over the first version of the software.
Yeah, decaseconds.
But one of our friends ran it on a Pi 4 and they were getting, I don't know, 60
That's
to
true.
100
We
frames a second.
maybe
I don't know.
we can try hooking up to a Pi 4. I haven't tried that yet.
Smooth. Yeah.
Then it'd be smooth. You think a Pi 4
Oh,
would
100%.
change it?
Yeah, because that was our bottleneck for sure.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I don't know.
Once
I
we're
mean,
done talking
I don't
here-
know exactly what some of your processing is doing too, though. There's probably places where you could cut out some amount of processing in there to shave off a few extra milliseconds or to shave.
At least
some
in my
cycles.
opinion, there's really not that much processing that could be shaved off because
or
all
there's
of it's
a different
done.
approach that's more efficient.
Yeah, that's
Now
possible.
that I
Because
am not
that's-
going to discount.
We're saying that OpenCV is so incredibly dense and filled
It's
with
huge.
Yeah, there's so
dude.
many things you can do with it
OpenCV, that's the biggest issue with OpenCV, at least in this iteration, is Python is probably part of my bottleneck.
yeah,
but
probably.
honestly, it's probably just my algorithm by far is probably the least efficient part of the proc.
I mean, yeah, because
process.
I remember, right? We started with one algorithm and it was half a frame per second, and then
We switched to a
slightly
different one.
Switched to a different one, and it was night and day, like 60 to 100 frames a second.
Correct,
instead.
but that was a super basic, like not proper target. That was
right,
basically
yeah, that was literally just highlighting red pixels
and
circling
averaging them
or whatever.
No, it was literally
yeah.
averaging them. Is what we were doing.
I mean,
like what
it would
Kyle
be a very
said.
fast way to get.
Would it be
rough
fast?
Target
Yeah.
acquisition.
And
yeah.
if we were selling this as a product, that's probably what I would do. No, I wouldn't. No,
I mean, I
not.
guess that would. Yeah. it
Never
would fit
mind.
On a Pi
Not
Zero,
say
done.
that would be what I would do. No, that is exactly what I would do because that algorithm is simple enough. You could probably run it on a fucking Arduino if you really wanted to.
Maybe not an Arduino, but an ESP32's
An
clocked at, like, 200
ESP32
megahertz.
or like a higher ish end like ARM a microcontroller.
Some of the ESP32s even have 2 cores.
Yeah, see, like
Yeah.
we could do this on a microcontroller if we tried. Like if we were to use that algorithm.
I think that'd be a fun challenge.
That would be a fun
but
challenge, and that would
the
be
project
cool.
is already here and presented, and I don't know. It's sort of my understanding that it's best practice not to hang around on one project. for
correct,
too
and that's
terribly
why
long.
Yeah, but we always like talking about the possibilities, I guess, because
No, I get it.
and
Yeah.
also one other possibility just throw in because it's very related is instead of using color detection is to use actual AI on an image to do like body tracking.
So that's what I was actually.
I mean, we could also jump into one other thing, which is thermal tracking.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
true.
So this
Yes.
is by far, if we are going to do a V2 as a video, this is how I'm going to do it. I already know. We are going to grab an actual proper thermal camera, and we are going to use the thermal camera for tracking effectively. So the idea would be is that there would be no image processing. Like there wouldn't have
There
to be.
wouldn't have to be. Yeah,
Exactly.
All that's done by the camera.
Yeah, the only image processing we might have to do is just say, okay, shoot the largest thermal mass you see. And that's
Which
simple.
is the same thing as the color one.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. I would have to change almost nothing, but except I would do less image processing, so in theory it would be way faster.
Yeah.
Now, +1 for the thermal camera. It's lower resolution, so theoretically it would run faster. -1 for the thermal camera. It's lower resolution, so I lose accuracy.
As if this thing's accurate as is.
Yeah, especially since the first time I got shot with it, it was aiming at my chest, but it shot me straight almost in the mouth if I wasn't covering my face. I then fixed it, and then it actually properly shot Kyle in the stomach, which is what I was going for in the first place. So I just had it zeroed wrong.
I remember messing with the range on this thing because I built the gun and I was shooting it across my driveway. Like by 30 feet, the spread was probably 5 foot in diameter. It was
When you were testing the gun, the accuracy was terrible.
We just got to put a different choke in there.
For V2, we need to rifle the barrels. We need to do
or use a longer section of brake line or
That's
something.
true too. Yeah. Well,
'Cause
this isn't brake line.
No, I know. This is the smoothbore barrel from that airsoft gun.
Well,
but-
in a normal airsoft gun, the actual propulsion system is what puts spin on them.
is that true? Okay.
Yes. So what it does is that when you propel them, it actually puts spin on them, which is also, I think, for V2. If we were to make a V2, I wouldn't want to use airsoft.
I wonder if I could have done some really funny stuff with some mechanical design to like rifle just the first section of that printed piece. So you insert the barrel, and then the rifling is just in the first like inch or whatever of like a printed piece, and then you don't have to rifle anything. You just print, slot it in, and then it puts spin on them and rifles as is.
Yeah, a
and they
ball
just
is
spin
easier to
around.
just put spin and leave spin on. It's not like a barrel in a gun where you actually have to have a pretty long rifle twist.
Well, barrels are rifled the whole way down. So I
Exactly.
think
I'm
the
saying that
chamber,
we
but
would
yeah.
need that because of the projectile we're using.
Yeah.
But I think for V2, if we were to build a like actual massive like table-sized V2,
I think it'd be sick. Yeah.
that would be really sick. But I think by using a table-sized V2, we wouldn't just be limited to airsoft. We would be able to hook
easily.
We would be
paintballs,
able to
yeah.
hook it up to Nerf. We'd be able to hook it up to paintball guns, and we could do any type of projectile we wanted. Now,
I mean, it's table sized at that point. You could use a scuba tank as your air
if we wanted to, yeah.
input, right? It's
that-
so big, it's not like it's moving anywhere. Very,
But that transitions me to we have gotten many requests. I'm not going to name names. We have gotten many requests to attach a real firearm to it. Now, we are in the United States, and we are in a rather, we'll say, libertarian state that does not have any sort of, that doesn't have as restrictive laws as many other states in this country. However, the United States has a law, federal law, against what is called a, what is it? It's a lethal
automated something system,
it's
right?
lethal automated weapon system.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So basically, if you do that, it is like a high class felony. Like, it is a full on, like, you are going to prison for 10 years minimum with a record. Like, it is bad.
You're not holding a job again. Yeah,
no,
right.
yeah, you're not getting another job. And like, I'm not risking that. I'm sorry. As cool as it would be, that's not happening. So I just wanted to get that out of the way.
I do think it'd be really cool to have something that's like roughly this size and maybe Nerf based that you can just have in the corner of an office, and it's like a cool little set piece to talk about. That, like, you know, people bring Nerf guns into their office, and you could be like, click, and you turn it on, and this turret, you know, starts like looking back and forth, you know, and if it sees someone, it fires.
I want to hang on the firearm thing for one last final comment. Would an SOT change that?
What is an SOT?
I don't know.
We don't know. Brandon Herrera, hit us up.
It's a license. Basically, you have a license.
It's a license to make
machine guns and illegal stuff.
And other things. Yes.
It makes it legal for you only.
Yeah. So if Brandon Herrera, you know,
I don't know who that is.
He's a gun YouTuber.
Oh,
Basically, any gun YouTuber with an SOT wants to help us out.
There you go.
But the thing is, I don't think it does.
I'm assuming it doesn't.
I don't think it does.
But, you know, whatever.
Because we got contacted by, you know, I'm not going to name names. Anyway, so speaking of, we mentioned thermal cameras and stuff. And I think thermal cameras would be the easiest way to do this. The problem is that there's only one thermal camera I found that's maker friendly, and it is not good.
Oh, is this the SparkFun?
No, Adafruit.
Or Adafruit.
It's Adafruit.
Sorry. Yeah, the $75 Adafruit one.
It's only $75, but it's also got a resolution of like 144p, and that's not the fault of Adafruit. It's probably the only maker-friendly one they could find to sell that's reasonably priced.
I mean, you can get there are like $200 or $300 modules, but again, it's like 240p instead.
Or like how much
China.
How much would be like a $1,000 thermal scope? I'm not saying we would buy this, but I'm just wondering like what resolution would that be even? It wouldn't be that high.
It's still probably not that high.
The FLIR modules that like hook into USB-C on your phone are only like 480 by 640 or 640 by 480. They're not high resolution.
I'm gonna hope that I remember our contact.
Our contact, yes. I don't remember what.
Have you done the math on the resolution of the camera plus the angle that the camera has, like the viewing angle, and seeing how much resolution you need in order to get it within, for example, 3 inches in the human body?
Anyway, we're going to take a look at a thermal scope and see what sort of resolution we're looking at on a typical thermal scope. Never mind, these are...
Well, that was like one of the... I don't know if their thermal scopes, if like a lot of thermal scopes would even have a way to tap into it without destroying it, basically.
Scopes. These are like nods almost. That's okay.
They have, that doesn't matter. We'll just duct tape it to the barrel either way.
Oh, that's $5,000.
Yeah,
that's
we're not doing that.
$6,000.
Point the microphone down.
No, I refuse. That's $1,000.49.
Yeah, they're not cheap. That's the other issue. Is that thermal scopes are freaking expensive. He is currently looking on his phone.
1024 by 768 OLED monitor.
That's not terrible. I'm assuming that's just a monitor. That's not the resolution of the camera.
Oh, right. Sorry. 256 by 192 thermal resolution.
Told you.
Yeah.
That's literally the same resolution as the one that Adafruit had.
Is it?
Yeah, but the Adafruit one also didn't include literally everything else on that scope. Honestly, I still think as long as the FOV is wide enough, that would still be plenty for what we're trying to do.
Realistically, yeah, right. I mean, it's so inaccurate anyway. At 30 feet, 1 pixel is what, a 5 foot by 5 foot square? Perfect. There's a blob of white there. Shoot it. Done.
Yeah, more bullets means more likely to hit stuff, right? We're just going to start firing for longer bursts. That's my solution.
Let's go look at a more expensive
the manufacturing
option.
inaccuracies and the BBs at that point are what determine your accuracy.
Let's take a look at a $6,000 option here and just sort of see if they list the resolution as 336 by 256.
Nice.
So you spend another $5,000 and you get 15 more pixels.
So there's another thing that people keep asking us about.
Yeah, I guess that is true. Just use 2 cameras and make a camera array. At that
You'll have
yeah.
stereo video. You'll be able to do 3D like triangulation.
Yeah, put 1 camera here, 1 camera here, and 1 up there. There
You'll actually be able to triangulate position.
We have distance sensing on our turret.
That would be really cool, actually.
I mean, it would work pretty well to know like angle of attack and all that sort of stuff.
It knows as the PSI like lessons how to angle the barrel, so that way it still hits.
I mean, I guess you could stick a digital sensor back in there, yeah, and it would tell you roughly.
Ideally, this
you
would
could do a lot.
You could do a lot, but we're
not a full engineering firm. We don't have engineering firm funding.
Yeah, until we do, then maybe we'll change.
I mean, that would be pretty cool to like poke at and just really refine this one project, but.
A friend of mine who works for an military company was joking and saying I should send in this as my resume and see if they'd hire me. Anyway, so one of the things, we kept getting a lot of questions on our TikTok, especially about like design decisions that we've made, including one comment that was just making fun of us for not using a funnel to fill up the, like you guys are.
We tried the funnel. Didn't think about that, did you?
You guys are engineers. You guys didn't think to use a funnel? Huh?
Like, funnel instantly clogs.
It instantly
pretty
clogged.
Good.
Yeah.
Actually, it's really interesting that the 2-liter bottle doesn't instantly clog. Like, there's something with the geometry where all the BBs just pour out perfectly from the spout of the 2-liter bottle. But when you use the funnel, I don't know, something it like comes together in such a way where the BBs pack in and then don't go through, and you have to like, I don't know, use a ramrod or something or agitate it to get the BBs down. Yeah.
So another fun fact of design decisions we've made, a few people were like, why didn't you just chop the top of the bottle off? And the simplest thing is, and we need to show it. Maybe we might film a TikTok where we show off like what happens.
Yeah, do you have a 2-liter bottle? We can just
chop off the top?
Yeah.
No, I don't have one. I don't know if Kyle has one either. But if
I threw away one pretty recently.
If you were to chop off the top of this and you were to pump air in, the air would just escape out the top. And then there wouldn't be any propulsion.
And the BBs would shoot out the top of the.
I don't think they would shoot out. I just think they would
might.
They would just shake around.
There's
and
a lot
air would
of
come out.
There's a lot of pressure in here.
That's true. I don't think any would come out the barrel.
I suppose it's plausible. It depends on what.
It's possible that 1 or 2 would, but it's not going to be nearly as effective as it is now.
It depends on the path of least resistance, really.
Yeah, suppose that some do come out the barrel.
If you filled it,
they will not continue to come out the barrel because they will all be out of the bottle.
Yeah, I guess.
Or that and the speed at which they come out of the bottle would be significantly decreased.
I mean, if you maybe filled it all the way to the top, there's like an argument that the path of coming back up and through
might be more annoying than coming out of the barrel.
Yeah, that's fair.
Coming
out the barrel.
But even then, it still wouldn't work.
It's high pressure air. It'll find its way out.
It has a feature where it has a way to open the lid whenever you're close to the turret, so it's an explosion. So that way, it's a final grenade of all of its bullets.
Oh my god!
You just
stick little ultrasonic sensors around the top of it. Yeah. When you get close, it just explodes. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason why we didn't do that. A few people have asked why didn't we use Nerf and why didn't we use like other form factors or whatever. And the simple thing is that my original inspiration was from a Nighthawk and Light video where he took a 2-liter or some sort of bottle and he basically bought brake line and he just used an air compressor to shoot BBs out of it. And I thought it was really cool and I wanted to build one. So we did, and I'm like, well, we're engineers. Let's put it on a turret. Any other questions, comments, like thoughts you have about it?
Why did you use Ender 3 motors?
They're not Ender 3 motors.
Kyle,
we explained this. They're not.
I'm just reading comments from people.
Know.
We didn't.
I knew where you were going for with that.
Are you gonna like go through viewer comments response?
Yeah, I feel like that'd be fun.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, right, just scroll through some comments. Find some fun ones to respond to. This is not planned at all.
So you said they're not, but what are they then?
They're NEMA 23 stepper motors.
And is that a form factor or is that a manufacturer?
That is a standard of larger motors.
Let's quickly break down the NEMA form factor of motors.
It's just I think it's just the millimeters apart.
A NEMA, so NEMA 17, 14, 23, etc., whatever, are a form factor of motor. The NEMA notation or naming scheme sets how far apart the mounting holes are in the motor and how big the motor body is. So I think a NEMA 17 motor is 42 millimeters by 42 millimeters, and that is set. But it can be as long or short as you want. You can have those super thin little NEMA 17s.
Pancake motors.
Or you could have a NEMA 17 motor that's a meter long.
Which
I
would
don't
be
know
stupid,
why,
but you could.
But you could have a NEMA 17 motor that's a meter long, but it has to be that 42 by 42 millimeter like profile. Similar with NEMA 23, it's a larger profile than a NEMA 17. I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's closer to 52 by 52 or somewhere around there. I don't remember.
They're almost twice as big.
No, not at all.
Okay, it's 25% bigger. I don't know.
Yeah, 10-25%. Somewhere around there. A little bit larger.
They're bigger, and they're not
again
3D
have
printer
the
motors.
same. They have to be whatever, that rectangle or that square of a certain size, and they can be as long or as short as you'd like. And similar thing applies to NEMA 14 and whatever other versions of the motor they are. So it's effectively a Ender 3 stepper motor. It's just a larger version of that with a different shaft diameter.
Find another viewer question?
But the other question is why did you use that type of motor?
Because it was free.
In addition,
easy to deal with. We already have
And
hardware to drive
and we already
them.
knew that we'd be able to drive it with the hardware we had at the time. And then when we bought new hardware, we also know it can drive it with that as well.
yeah. Well, the
Which is
other question, I guess,
convenient,
is that with a stepper motor, you can determine like where, like
It'll
with the
go,
steps,
yeah.
where it goes.
Yeah.
Or with normal motors, it's like you turn it on and it'll spin, and you turn it off and it won't spin, and then you use like a
in
potentiometer or
theory,
something to keep track
we
of.
can have higher accuracy by doing that, which I would like
you
to
can give
change
it somewhat
to do.
fine-grained control.
Yeah.
As opposed to giving it like a time, like a voltage and a time to move roughly in the right direction. We can tell it, I want you to move this far in this period of time.
Interestingly, most of the turrets that I've seen that do this kind of detection actually have the camera mounted onto the base itself and instead map each pixel to a certain steps away and then move that way. The only reason why I didn't want to do that is because I wanted a higher potential FOV. But realistically, for V2, I would probably switch it back, and I would probably mount it to the
theoretically, you
base.
could like run circles around the thing and it would follow you, other than the fact that it gets tangled up in its own wires.
Yeah, if we could somehow get it so that way we could actually have a full 360 turret, that'd be really cool, but I doubt that
It would be a pain, but it is doable.
It is doable. Yeah, you'd have like the air in the center, and then each
A
of
couple
the signals would be a
people actually
ring.
suggested that in the comments.
It would be cool, just a bit of a pain. Doable though.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to play Doom music when it turns on,
Uh,
or make it play Portal 2.
We really do need to shove a speaker on there.
We did do that.
Oh,
We
you
actually
did?
did. Yeah, we did.
Good.
We
okay,
did. We have
never
video
mind.
of it, but it sounded like garbage in the video, so we chose not to show it.
The speakers
might-
were also as big as the turret was.
Well,
Funnily enough.
whatever. You might be able to doctor that a little bit in post.
Yeah, we did for one, but
We did for. I don't think I will, but
it's up to you, Jen.
You should doctor it at least in the very beginning or whatever.
I've barely started editing the thing. I have what the flow is going to be.
That's good. It's a step in the right direction.
A step.
Hey, it's okay. You got a little while still.
I have about a month.
Well, don't let that slip.
put it on the RC car.
That would be fun. However, it's a
RC
bit
boat?
heavy. A bit heavy. Someone, what?
Yeah, do we have a scale? I've never weighed the thing, but I know it's pretty chunky.
It's pretty heavy. It weighs like 10 pounds. It's not light.
Yeah, that actually might be 10 pounds.
It weighs about. Well, I'm including also the other components that you'd have to put
Yeah,
on
if you
it.
include the air. But no, I don't know. I mean,
The
it's
fun-
probably
the
a
fun-
solid
the most
5
fun
pounds, 6
idea-
pounds, 7?
That a couple of my friends keep having is that Bobby thinks we should mount it to our heads and walk around with it.
Yeah, put it on your shoulder like a parrot is another one I saw.
Or Quentin suggested we put it on a backpack facing the opposite direction, and now we have back coverage.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
Oh my
Your
gosh.
forward coverage and its back coverage.
That would be cool.
That's pretty good for an actual airsoft game. Yeah, I don't know.
At the very least, it would alert you of enemies behind you.
Yeah, because you'd hear the.
You can also add a casing to it to make it look like a Portal 2 turret or a CRAM are also a couple
Honestly, to make it look like a CRAM, all we got to do is paint the bottle white and we're good to go.
That is probably the comment that we had the most by far.
I heard it from a handful of my friends just showing it to
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
We've had, and like
Yeah.
me and Kyle at first thought, okay, they must work in the military, but apparently everyone.
Because I never heard of a CRAM
Neither
before.
had I, to be honest. Yeah.
But apparently the
And
average
then
human
someone's
knows.
like, hey, that looks like a CRAM. And I look it up and I'm like, holy shit, that
It
looks like a
does.
CRAM. Yeah.
I actually don't know what the tube on the CRM is because that's actually where the ammo goes. The ammo comes up from the bottom.
The tube up, or the like big cylinder guy up on the
Is that like
CRAM.
their radar?
Yeah, it's their radar detector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
It's
no,
the
that's
antenna
our
or the
ammo.
radar. Yeah. No, that's
'Cause
our ammo, but you know.
I know
whatever.
the CRM is belt fed. It comes up from underneath the deck.
I'm pretty sure it's just a M92 Vulcan cannon underneath there. Just
But
a
it-
20 millimeter Vulcan.
But then they just add a bunch of like radar and stuff to it for automatic target acquisition.
Yep.
Maybe cut some of the bottle off of it to make it more compact.
That's not a bad idea.
I guess you could use, I don't know.
Or we could always just use a 1 liter bottle.
I was thinking like a half-liter water bottle.
Or that works too. We'd have to change the thread pattern. Yeah. That gives me an idea. Why don't we copy, I guess maybe for V2, why are we even bothering with vision? Why don't we just put radar on it?
Radar has problems, but you could try.
Can I have a smartphone app where I can control it with my phone?
Actually, I have the start of code for that. So I actually did get it working remote, but it is not good. It needs refined greatly. But I was able to control it using the keyboard on my computer, using the spacebar to shoot.
Did you want to talk about radar or no?
I think it would be cool to have like some sort. I think that
radar just isn't going to work. I'm sorry.
It's not going to work?
No. Radar's unlike vision. Radar is distance to a point cloud.
Which is literally what the military solution is: more bullets is more death.
And so, like, you can maybe detect some level of motion in that point cloud, but anything else moves, and now you have to go and like look at it and try to shoot it. The wind blows and some leaves move. Uh-oh, guess I'm shooting those leaves over there.
But I was thinking,
like, you don't have the same granular control as a camera. That's why adaptive cruise systems in cars need a camera to work as well. It's not just radar-based.
Okay.
Right? It's the two combined which give you that level of accuracy and precision to actually do that.
Well, if we were to have some sort of motion detection system that would be a little bit more improved, I guess I would say that I would rather keep it 180 but add like a radar system to it that would just detect, okay, there's some motion over here, maybe we should look over here to see if there's a target. Because frankly, if you're like, this FOV on this camera's crap.
You could even
just complete crap.
You could add a camera on each of these three faces. I'm pretty sure a 90-degree FOV isn't too hard of an ask for a camera. So camera on all four faces of the bottom of the thing, and now you know like if there are anyone in a given quadrant, I guess, around you, and you can then point the gun to that quadrant. So like, say there's someone back here and you're like, oh, okay, I got the camera.
Well, so
and you spin 180 degrees knowing that someone's back there.
Well, no, another common way that people actually do the image detection on these things and like do a lot of image processing is instead of doing like I did where it actually dynamically updates every frame, instead what you do is that when you set it, when you turn it on, it takes a picture and it uses that picture as a point of comparison.
Oh yeah.
And it like minor movements it's good at ignoring, but if like a human would walk and that it would compare the two, the histogram would like spike and it would be like, oh my God, there's something there. And then it would try to calculate out where it is. And it's way faster to do it that way. But because I decided to mount the webcam to the gun, that made it way more complicated to do the math and stuff.
Yeah, because then the whole thing moves, and now your whole image has shifted.
Which is why I think if I were to do a V2, I would not mount it to the gun unless I had a proper AI, like Kyle was saying, doing the detection.
The only problem with that...
Which was the original intention.
The only problem with that, at least with this design, is the fact that you could possibly drop some steps or skip a step or 12.
I would rather risk dropping some steps and having to hit a reset button or whatever than...
I'm just afraid that heavy airline, but I don't know. I was never here with this thing on. It has never been powered on in front of me with the new beefy drivers. Like 5 amps is a lot of current. I don't know if it could just yank that airline around or if it's still...
Yeah, yank the airline around, no problem.
Can it get into a... I don't know. The question
the issue was...
Can it get into a position where that airline is holding it in some way?
Our issue was not the airline. Our issue was this base is not heavy enough. So for when we do a real demonstration,
I probably need to redesign those legs so that we can bolt it to a table or something. I'm just gonna
bolt this to a table.
Is what we're gonna do. I gotta redesign the legs though. Okay.
Well, we'll do that next weekend.
Yeah, it'll like tear its own wires out though.
Remind me so I can do it this week and print them before next weekend.
Okay.
Because otherwise, next weekend's gonna roll around and we're all gonna get together and it's be like, "Hey, did you make those legs?" No, I was doing it this weekend.
Add that to the list.
How are you guys so smart? How do you know what parts to use in order to do something?
A lot of experience.
Experience. I'm sorry. I have no other advice to give them except for experience.
I do.
You do?
Google. How do I do this? And I read a bunch, and then I like get ideas, and I'm like, how do I do that?
The problem is not a lot of people have the patience for that.
That's true. It takes a lot of patience, but it is another solution.
Yeah. And the big thing is, though, is that even with Google, you still don't know what is the best option at the end of the day.
That's true, but you just want to work.
You can at least try. Yeah. You can
sort of have to try a bunch of options and see what works best. That's sort of what we did with the Vision, right? We tried a bunch of different options.
For the algorithm.
Hey, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. This is giving us some promising results, so let's sort of narrow in on this a little bit for a second. And okay, maybe that doesn't work out, so we'll back up and transition to another result or another option or another way to do something. And that's sort of, what you have. I get some of that too, because for a lot of these sort of things, there is that initial investment of, oh, I have to spend $300 on parts to make this thing. I don't know if that's going to work out, but at the end of the day, I either spend the money for these parts or I don't. Spending the money for the parts is cool and fun, and you get something out at the end. Maybe. Or you keep the $300 and buy something more,
will work and
yeah, right,
thing.
more assured, I suppose, is maybe the best way to put that.
I guess we have an advantage in that regard, is that we're engineers and we've done stuff like this before.
Yeah, right. And then having done that, and maybe even buying kits and things, right? I guess I used to play with Kinects constantly growing up, so I
had the Lego Mindstorms.
Always played with that sort of stuff, like mechanical design. I originally wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and I shifted my focus sometime in high school to computer engineering.
Yeah, I figured out very quickly that the mechanical design is not what I'm interested in. When I did have the Mindstorm stuff, I was way more interested in programming them.
I still greatly enjoy the mechanical design stuff, but I'm not sure I want to do it for a job.
That's kind of how I am with electrical engineering.
This was super fun. I loved building the gun. I don't know. It's just good fun.
Yeah.
But I always want to build functioning things that I can integrate some form of electronics into. I don't want to build like a dollhouse or however you want to phrase that. I just want to build a functioning smart home or whatever, right? You get your little Lego set and you want to build a smart home or something with like working AC, and it just doesn't work like that. But
how do you guys get into programming? How does one get into programming? Let's say I'm new.
You got a computer, and you probably go on Khan Academy or somewhere.
The problem, I have a very hard time answering
it's
questions.
It's really difficult to answer
when people are just, how do I do this? And it's like really general. Okay.
That is super general.
My next question to you is, what do you want to do with it? That would be my next question to you. Because depending on what you want to do with your programming is going to determine what I tell you what you should learn. If you say, I want to make a website, I'm going to say, go learn React or go learn Squarespace even. If you say, well, I want to learn how to make cool stuff like you do, I'm going to say, go try to learn something either like Python or C or Arduino.
I think Arduino is a pretty approachable start.
But if they don't have an Arduino, I'm going to tell them to learn Python, because Python gives you the basics of programming either way. I think at the end of the day, Python is by far the best beginner language, but the problem is you need to know something to do with it. The hardest thing in the world, to me anyway,
coming up with a project idea.
Not just that, trying to do something with no purpose. I hate those BS class. I know they are needed, and I've complained about this before. I hate those BS classes that you take in school that have seemingly no reason and no purpose.
Yeah,
do I love
these
learning
random
things?
12 lines of code that have no purpose and no rhyme or reason to them.
Is my
what
biggest
does this
peeve.
Function do in this example section of code? Yeah, no, it sucks.
That's why like a bunch of my practical classes that I've taken, I enjoyed way more than my impractical classes. Were saying, hey, you have to develop this algorithm that does this specific thing. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Now there's a set of design goals and something that you, like actually.
I would rather a class be taught like a job.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes more sense anyway. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be
think
programming
that
as a job.
It's better.
It should be taught like a job.
Yeah, and that's why you should find a project that you're passionate about, that you want to work on to have an end goal. So I have a friend who's asked me the same thing like 100 times. What do you want to do? I want to get into programming. How do I do it? And I go, what do you want to do with it? And then the problem is he would tell me, I don't know.
Yeah, so for that, actually, I would say there's another really cool video series I found online. It's called the Map of series. So there's this guy on YouTube that makes like the map of computer science. And he goes into like at a high level all the different areas that are in computer science, and then all the different areas that are in computer engineering, and all the different areas that are in electrical engineering, because each of these jobs, which are more techie based, have a bunch of different sub jobs in them that you could be doing and learning about.
Yeah.
So that at least lets you know what there is, because a lot of these people, especially for me, I remember when I was starting, I was like, I don't know what it is I don't know. I don't even know what the options are. So at least that provides you with some options.
I guess that's true. We sort of have the experience to know generally what the options are. We've done this long enough. And
I was lucky enough to have someone who would guide me and would tell me the options. But in reality, most people don't have that. So to say that, like, for example, if I were to say, I always say all the time, if you want to make money, you got to go into the tech industry. But like when you tell people to go into the tech industry, what part of the tech industry am I talking about?
There's so many different
parts.
There's
so many different parts.
So vast.
Now, that being said, most of it is a good bet, but there's some of it that you're going to lose your ass on. Not going to say anything about myself here, but
yeah, okay, bud.
Yeah,
okay there, bud.
there's
Lost it all already.
But it's very difficult to quantify a job and quantify something for a person to do when there doesn't really exist, when they themselves don't know what they're going into. I guess
right. Like I could tell you to go learn Python or something, but
then you're gonna be if you don't have a project, if you don't have a reason, you're gonna be like, why?
You're not gonna do it. You're gonna learn Hello World, whatever.
And then that's it.
Print Hello World, and then end your program. And I learned Python, but
I need to. That's why I always tell someone that the best way to learn programming is to find something that doesn't. Even if it exists, you know what? It doesn't matter if it doesn't exist or not. Just find something that you want to make. Doesn't matter if it exists. Do you know how many apps I've written that already exist, and just because I wanted to learn how to do it? Yes, I could have gone on Squarespace and made my portfolio website, but I wanted to make my own. I could have gone on Me6 or some other Discord bot and wrote and got the functionality I wanted that way. No, I wrote my own Discord bot because I wanted to learn how to do it. And it doesn't matter if the thing you want to make exists. It doesn't matter if you want to make Call of Duty 45 or another clone of Call of Duty. Just do it.
That's one thing that a lot of people who say they want to make video games do. They're like, oh, like I do want to make a video game. And then people go like, well, what kind of video game? And they go like, oh, it'd be really cool if, it was a giant open world MMORPG that had like these 50 different classes that also integrates with this other system.
That's EVE Online / World of Warcraft / it already exists.
There's another.
But it's like such a large. I guess what I'm saying is like it's such a large.
Yes. That's too project. Big. That's not scope. That's not scoped enough, is what you're saying.
Yeah. That's such a huge thing. Find something interesting that you want to do.
That's a bit more scoped.
Small and approachable. Maybe that someone else has already done before, right? Some simple Arduino project. Make an LED cube. Those are cool. An LED matrix or array, some form of little like LED display, something small. If you want to learn PCB design, you can do like a traffic light. It was something that I saw, like just literally 3 LEDs. Slap them down.
With a little
cheap,
microcontroller in it.
It's easy to make. Done. You've learned something and you can take those skills and apply them forwards into the future to build more
complex things.
Complicated, yeah.
Like this guy right here. This guy's actually like 5 or 6 different like really core fundamental skills all put together.
Yeah.
That me and Ian both had when combined together.
Electronics design, I don't know, mechanical design,
how to operate a 3D printer.
Yeah, how to operate a 3D printer. That is a skill. It's not always pull the thing out of the box and it just goes. There's leveling and understanding the different aspects and like variables in the control software inside the firmware on the printer.
And not everything is printable. You can't print in like just space. It needs to be built off of something.
Or you can't have overhangs. You have to have support holding something up. It doesn't. Yeah, right. So you have to know how to design a part to be 3D printable. That is another big challenge.
So yeah, basically our advice to you is find something that you really, 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 really want to make, but scope it in. Say, okay, I want to make a video game that does X, Y, Z, and Z and X, and because I have that bad habit of I always think I'm a programmer, I could definitely make a video game. Then I sit down and try to use Unity, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Or maybe even break it into small parts. I want to make a video game that does X, Y, and Z.
I can move a person.
Do a video game
that makes X, and that's it.
And that's it.
I can move a person.
I'm gonna make a video game that does Y.
I want to be able to walk around a level in the first person.
I'm gonna make a video game that does Z.
Done.
And now I can combine my 3 projects into one that does X, Y, and Z.
Because, for example, luckily I already had OpenCV experience before I did this project. But if I didn't do this, if I didn't already have OpenCV experience, this would have been an extremely overwhelming project to do.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
We're really lucky. We're like just ourselves, I feel like, have gotten to the point relatively recently where we can now just have an idea and just be able to make it, which is so cool, Now,
that being said, depending on who you ask, we're fairly young to be able to do that. But some people would also argue that, I was a prodigy, I could do that at 16. Like, no, you need experience. Even then, there is still tons and tons and tons of things, especially even in just the programming world, that I can't do yet.
I would bet you that a 16-year-old can make this. And the reason why is because I had a friend in high school who also made one of these, but with a Nerf turret, actually.
Oh, I'm sure that it's totally feasible. Yeah, right.
But many people don't know where to get started is the problem.
Yeah, but don't think that he just did it. He also spends a lot of his time just doing stuff like that, It's like he might be 16, but he was 16 and also spent so many hours learning how to do that. You have a bunch of skills yourself that he doesn't know how to do.
I've spent years building up skills and stuff like that. For example,
right.
no. You want an example of something that I couldn't have done without Ian's help? Dude, I am garbage at mechanical design. I suck. I am okay. I can do I'm okay with Fusion 360. I can do a little bit of mechanical design, but 90% of the mechanical design that I've done is stupid, simple stuff. Like I designed a hook that my headset sits on at home.
And the funny thing is, I see this as a stupid, simple design.
I couldn't have done this. I could not have done this by myself.
Quick and dirty for me to make as possible. It's a couple of extrusions. It's mostly squares.
It took like an hour to print.
Yeah, right. It took me 2 or 3 hours to make. Could it be way better? Yeah, sure.
But it works.
I could copy more of Kyle's gimbal and make it prettier and really like doll it up into something. But that wasn't the point. The point was a quick prototype of, I don't know if this is going to work, so let me make it as like condense it to the bare core,
the bare minimum parts,
the bare minimum, and then put that together and see if that works and where we're at. And then once I have that core functionality, then I can dress it up and doll it up and make it look like a turret or whatever. But for now, it's just core functionality and nothing more.
Oftentimes after talking about this, I often hear people say like, oh, well, I couldn't do this. And so...
Yes, you could.
And the thing is I want to ask you, Ian, was there ever a point in time that you think you couldn't have done this? And I am going to say, no matter what, the answer is definitely yes, because there's a point in which you didn't even know anything about 3D printers and you had to learn about it.
There was a point, yeah, when I didn't know.
Dude.
There was a point when I was just getting started where I was learning. Google SketchUp was where I started for 3D modeling.
Oh, okay.
Did it work? Yeah. Did it have its issues? Oh, yeah. But I persevered and I took classes in school to learn Autodesk Inventor and actual CAD software. And that's what I use today, proper CAD software to design my things. I mean, I got my first 3D printer, it's probably 7 or 8 years ago now.
You were really early on the 3D printer game, dude. You were like one of the first people.
I purchased a PrinterBot Simple Metal in 2014.
Yeah.
That was my Christmas present.
I did not get into 3D printing until 4 years later. And at that point, the new trend changed from a bunch of high quality 3D printers that can do anything to shit them out as cheap as possible, but good enough that people will use them.
Yeah, my printer was $600, and that was a bargain at the time because your other options were a MakerBot,
Ultimaker,
or an Ultimaker,
which are Ultimakers are still like $3,000.
That was back when the Ultimakers were made of plywood.
Yeah, they were still stupid expensive.
If anyone's seen a modern Ultimaker, to think that used to be made of plywood.
Now they're like some of the highest. Ultimakers are still some of the best machines, though.
I disagree at this point.
You disagree? You think that we can build our own? Well,
you can build your own printer that's nicer. Yeah,
that's another conversation for a different day. But like, I think
it's likely to work out of the box, but for a tinkerer like me, it's not the right product.
That's correct.
For someone who wants to pull it out of the box
and just make
set
stuff,
it down and click print, it's probably a decent device.
Or Prusa.
It's still going to need, tweaking and time spent learning about it. 3D printers are not as simple as an inkjet printer. You pull it out of the box, put some paper in it, boom, good to go. No, there's much more. It's a big mechanical system. It's a dumb robot. It has no clue where it is. It will happily, ram the nozzle into the bed, shatter pieces of glass. It doesn't care. It will catch itself on fire because it's
a machine.
Not smart enough to know where it is. It needs limit switches to tell it where it is. If one of those doesn't get hit, it doesn't know where it is in 3D space. It'll just keep spinning a motor until it hits that limit switch.
Yeah, so basically TLDR is anyone can do anything given enough time to learn.
Yeah, like right now, Chandler, you say that you're garbage and you can't do this, but I bet if you wanted to, you could learn and become that better.
But I have plenty of other things that right now that I need to learn better. For example, I need to learn how to use Final Cut Pro like in a month.
True. Why don't you... Sorry, so any last thoughts on that before I go to the next one?
Go to the next one.
You're good.
All right. Why don't you hook it up to like a tripwire and then have it trigger to start firing?
That is like dead. Honestly, we could easily do that. No problem. That'd be a dead simple design.
I don't see a point though. We've already got the camera.
Yeah,
so.
Might as well just leave it on the camera.
I don't know. Whatever. You could set it on like a tripod or whatever. Remove all of the other stuff.
Just have the gun on a tripod.
Just
tripwire.
Have the gun
shoot.
On a tripod, and when the
you wouldn't even need a computer involvement. It would just be the solenoid and like a battery and like a switch.
Yeah, you could probably just do it with a battery and a switch. No computer necessary.
Yeah.
12-volt car battery. Yeah, done.
All right, next question.
Why don't you make it battery powered?
We did.
It is.
Actually. Initially, it was battery powered. The reason why we switched away from it is because easier to prototype with when we had a variable power supply hooked up.
I mean, you still could have just slapped that lithium-ion cell on it. It would have been fine.
Yeah, because it runs at 12 volts, and you can get 12-volt batteries, no problem.
The stepper motors go up to 48 volts. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true, but but ideally, we could just power this thing off like a car battery or something, and it would work just fine.
Done. I have
the hard part is not
6S lipos.
Yeah,
those are plenty powerful. I got huge 3S batteries. I got batteries galore.
The problem is not the devices that were actually running themselves. The problem is the air that's needed. And it's much easier for us to have a portable or even just an air compressor plugged into the wall. Or in the case of Ian's house that has air lines ran through it, just using the air lines that Ian's dad has installed in his house.
Yep.
So anyway, next question.
The camera hooked up remotely to a drone remote.
We could probably do that. Just use an analog camera, hook up the stepper motors to like a drone controller, and then Ian controls the axes using his drone controller. We could definitely do that.
Oh, so are they saying like stick an FPV camera on
literally
it, wear
stick
FPV goggles, and just
use an FPV, just hook it up to like FPV controls. We could do that. That wouldn't be difficult.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad.
Actually, that would be like I think that'd be the thing to sell. I don't think we should sell the whole computer.
I mean, that'd be easy enough to parse out anyway, because Express LRS is all open source, and I don't know what the Crossfire protocol looks like, but it should be easy enough to just read in through a microcontroller, parse out. I mean, all you really need is the sticks, which are...
You'd only need one stick, too.
No, you need two.
Well, no, you need two if you want to...
Sorry, it's 4 axes, right?
Yeah.
It sends...
We only need 2.
Express LRS sends 5 pieces of information every time it transmits a packet.
I'm assuming it's like
throttle,
each axis, and then a
throttle, yaw, pitch, and roll, which are your control axes. Throttle would be up and down, I guess. Yaw is side to side. Pitch is forward and back, and roll is left, right, or like to the side.
And then I'm assuming the 5th is just an auxiliary.
The 5th is your arm switch or an auxiliary switch from the radio. Yes. Okay. I guess it's technically 6 because it sends the arm switch every time. But
okay, so it's 6 with an auxiliary.
Yeah, because then when you turn off the switch, it kills all the motors, so it doesn't shred someone or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
another thing to also think about is the danger of, like, if this were to be sold, of someone being like, why isn't it firing? And then they look down the barrel.
Yeah, that is a significant issue.
That's another reason I wouldn't sell it.
That's a legal issue.
It's a liability illegal issue, and I wouldn't want to deal with it.
We'll make it open source on GitHub. If you want to build it, that's on you, and you can't sue us.
Yep.
Yeah. But
it's going to currently has a GPL license, so nobody is also allowed to sell them either.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
So we're the only ones who are allowed to sell them, but you can freely make them. But where it's not our fault if you kill yourself.
I'm fine with stripping that license down to something that's even a little bit
like
more,
MIT.
Yeah, like you're allowed to sell it.
There's a what is it? It's like the WTF license or something like that. It's MIT.
Do what the fuck you want license.
Yeah, that one. That one.
Yeah.
Do what the fuck you want. Like it's MIT, but more passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Using motion detection instead of color detection or face detection or anything like that.
The reason why that doesn't work is because it's moving all the time.
Yeah.
We actually did try to use facial detection initially, but we figured shooting people in the eyes is not a good idea.
The facial detection would have worked fine as well. You just had to decrease the size of what it was looking for, but it started running super slow once we got it down to like 5 pixels by 5 pixels or some. It was relatively large. I think it was even 50 pixels by 50 pixels.
Yeah, it was not.
It was
fast.
super slow. It was not fast.
Upper body detection was originally what I tried to do, but dude, upper body detection using hard cascades is so inaccurate. It was like there was like up in the corner all of a sudden, and then it would disappear, and then I would stand in the middle of the camera and it wouldn't detect me, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I remember.
I guess it's calibrated to Europeans, and I'm too fat. What?
How many hours did we spend on upper body?
I only spent like 2 or 3. Yeah. I didn't spend that many hours on. I'm like, all right, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna go find something else. I mean,
still, that's a fairly sizable chunk of time, especially for someone
like
who
we
doesn't
throw
have
away
a lot. Like we've thrown away so many hours on a lot of these projects.
A lot of people think that we've done this in like 10 minutes to put together. You know,
I guess that's also true. That is a very this
project.
That's a YouTube thing.
We spent like 250 hours on this project at least.
Oh, probably. Yeah. I mean, who even wants to talk about my blinds? Something that's way simpler than this. Literally,
and you've wasted probably 500 hours just working on that thing.
I started the project 2 years ago.
Oh, more than that.
For 2 years, I've been automating my blinds with motors. Now, some of that time is obviously time where it's just been sitting there actually functional. But yeah, there's been 3 or 4 different like CAD models and tons of different revisions of code and changes, and now we're working on another revision. Stay tuned for like July maybe, or who knows. And yeah.
All right, Kyle.
It's more hours into a project. A project takes a lot of time, and you got to be able to invest that.
Kyle, do you have any questions, comments from viewers that you also want to go over?
Oh, there's a lot of comments. I've just been mainly pulling out the questions.
Yeah, or do you even have any questions of your own or anything else there? Anything to add to the fact that, project takes a long time?
Yeah. Project takes forever because...
And while you talk about it, let me scroll through. Let me find one, so that way we can keep the content rolling.
Yeah, that sounds good. I guess I've known, especially like when I was starting, I was this way as well. But since I've met a lot of people who started, you don't realize how much time something takes, especially when you're learning. Like initially you'll just go, okay, I'll learn. This will take 10 minutes. And, spending an hour on something means I shouldn't be doing that thing. It's what a lot of people's mantra is. It means that they're wasting time.
Time spent enjoying oneself is not time wasted, is my opinion.
Yeah, and not only that, but also developing skills that you'll use in the future.
Yeah. Skills is even more valuable than
skills is even more valuable, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you don't want to do it, but you're still spending an hour to learn some niche piece of code or whatever. But it's technically, it's not wasted time. You've learned something new that you can use moving forward. You've expanded your skill set to make you more valuable as a programmer.
Yeah. But the other thing is we have the luxury that when we learn a skill, we might be able to also monetize it in the form of a job.
Where just the average person, YouTube.
Yeah, put it on YouTube. But the average person, they might be like, I don't know, an accountant or something, right?
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
I have a story about this, actually.
Do you?
Yes. So I couldn't find anything that I actually want to... Try the other video. We have 2 videos up about it. But my stepbrother-in-law, yeah, that's what he is. He is an accountant, like you said. He has been doing it since college, which is like almost 20 years now, I think. And not almost 20 years, more like 10 or 15. Sorry, he's not that old. Sorry, Jeremy. But he took a programming. A few buddies of his came up to him and said, "Hey, we want to make this product, and we were thinking about like hiring a bunch of interns or hiring like some Indian guy to build it." It was a software project, and he goes, "Let me go talk to someone I know who is into this kind of stuff." And he called me, and him and I sat down and discussed it. And I go, "This isn't that hard to build. We could build this ourselves." So we sat down and we tried to build it. And it's been over 2 years now, and we're still working on the project and just in the background and stuff. And he has over 2 years of working on a real product that he wants to sell and programming experience. And he's gone to work and used it a little bit, but realistically, now he's talking about doing a full-on career shift. Or at least he was talking to me about it. It was an idea he had. I don't think he has acted upon it yet. But he's talked about doing a full-on career shift because he enjoys it so much more than his normal job in some ways, I should say. He said he likes his job still, but he's considered switching careers because of it. It's just interesting that he got so into his hobby that now, I would think I would have rather gone into this as my career.
Yeah. And you guys already know, but I'm a very big advocate of like doing what it is that you like, and then you do it so much, that thing you like so much that you don't really like it anymore, and then switching to something else that you really like, because then you're still maximizing the amount of time of you doing something you like instead of sticking with something that you don't like.
That's why I tend to take breaks. That's called burnout, Kyle.
Yeah. It's a different variation of burnout, I suppose. But
I prefer to take a break every once in a while and not, hyper focus on something that I really enjoy. I'll do something. Yeah, I don't know. I'll do something that I enjoy until I sort of feel the burnout starting to kick in, and then I'll switch to something else that's interesting for a short period of time, and then maybe circle back later.
I do that, but I do that on like weeks to days basis, where I'll be like, all right, I need a break, and I'll take like the weekend off of a project, and then like I do that more on longer terms. I don't do that during like in a day. I won't do that in a single day.
I don't know. I think that it can be nice to, I don't know, if I'm at work and I'm poking at a software thing or some piece of code that isn't working as I want it to, and I've spent a whole bunch of time debugging it and poking at it, and I haven't felt like I've gotten very far, I will walk over to one of my coworkers and just, I don't know, sit down and have a quick chat with them, not even about anything that's related to the piece of code, maybe some other work-related thing to keep it on company time, maybe just ask them about their weekend, whatever, and just clear my mind, and then come back to the problem with a fresh mind to be able to approach it differently. Nice.
I'm scrolling through our comments as well on my phone. I'm just curious.
The other thing about our conversation earlier that I'd add is if you are struggling to find a project and also you're in college or around the college age, I would recommend going to hackathons. Because
Hackathons are a good one, yeah.
Me and Ian did one. We've done one hackathon.
What is a hackathon?
You did too.
Some people don't know what hackathons are.
You're the one who literally ran the hackathon for our university. You
Some
should be the
people
one to
don't know what
explain it.
Just because I ran a hackathon does not mean other people know what it
All
is.
right, so
No,
a
I'm saying you
hackathon-
should explain it.
A hackathon is an event where you and a whole bunch of other cool, nerdy people all get together, and you're generally given one general goal.
Or you come with it yourself.
Or you come up with it yourself. Create some safety assistance device, for example. Don't mind me just dying over here. Cut that, please.
It's not COVID.
No. Anyway, you and a bunch of people get together. You're given some general goal, and then everybody goes out and they create some implementation. You write some piece of code or some piece of software that helps move yourself towards that goal. The example that I gave was some assistive device or whatever. So you go and write some piece of code that, I don't know, detects a car crash and automatically alerts the authorities asking for help.
You've invented OnStar.
Yeah, right, exactly. Open source that, whatever, I don't know. Now you have this project and you have these ideas and these constraints, and it sort of helps you get with other like-minded people, perhaps.
I need to know how to do stuff before going to these events.
No.
There are so many people there who are willing to help and, want you to learn things.
There are people
That's
that go
the
there
point.
to learn.
Yeah, right.
Like you would be one of the many who goes there knowing nothing.
Yeah, for sure. There are plenty of people who walk in the door knowing nothing about programming and leave having created their first app with a handful of new friends even.
Ian and I going there, like just the two of us, we had met a lot of high schoolers and or like college stage students who were like, hey, that's cool. We didn't know you could do that or whatever, and talking to us about it and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember though the one hackathon Ian and I went to together, it was like they gave us the most general, like I don't even remember what the topics were. They were so general and so... I barely ours
were very general. I don't remember them at all.
Barely fit into any of them. The project that we did.
We just did ours because it was fun and we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? You think?
Why not? Honestly, I thought about doing it as a TikTok, showing it off.
I don't know if it relates back to where I attended university or anything like that, though. That's my only concern with that.
Well, I don't think we can just talk about what it was.
Whatever. Take yourself a quadcopter and strap a servo motor to it. With a
it's a 3D printed brace that we made.
Yeah, 3D printed brace with a little Nerf grenade,
which I still have, by the way.
Yep. Actuate that servo motor while the quadcopter's up in the air and drop your little Nerf grenade out of the quadcopter.
So we did actually at one of my hackathons. I did a project very similar to this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most hackathons you go to, they have these prizes, and for the prizes, they have a list of requirements that they want. So some form of safety device, or the person who uses this programming language, or best embedded device.
We entered it in one of them, but they were not happy with us.
I don't think they were.
No. Yeah. One of my friends who was one of the organizers.
Oh, really?
Told me like they were very mad. Like they were. I'm not gonna say which sponsor was mad, but one of the sponsors was very.
Oh, one of the sponsors was pissed. Oh, that's good. That's good.
But he didn't. He said, "I don't care. I'm not running it next year anyway."
I'm gonna ask you about this after the podcast because I want to know more.
So for our project, we had disaster relief as our like prompts basically, and so we ended up with this drone that would fly in and it would have these pucks, and inside the pucks would be a Raspberry Pi that acted as Wi-Fi points. And the idea would be like, let's say you're
deploy Wi-Fi to like a destroyed area or something.
Exactly, and it allowed anyone who connected to them to be able to talk to each other through this Wi-Fi. Because you know how like when you go on like certain like hotels, you like sign into the Wi-Fi and it has you go to a web page to sign in.
Mm-hmm.
We use that exact same functionality in Wi-Fi to just bring them to a page that they can use to talk to each other and get information about like disaster stuff. So,
that's
so
really
you
cool.
ran the Raspberry Pi as an access point. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you have it like so the Pis not only act as access points, but it ad hoc to the other Pis then as a mesh network?
Correct. Yeah,
that's cool.
So you
That's
can like
awesome,
put as many of them as you wanted. So you'd have this swarm of drones go in and like boom, 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 and drop all the pucks.
And then from there, they
even
could
use,
still
like, a
ping
plane
off the
almost
Pi
or something for that to have a whole bunch of them, right? Because if they're pucks, you could like I don't know, stack like a line of them. Imagine like a long
literally
stack
just make a
of
gun
hockey
that
pucks.
shoots them. Toing.
You get Wi-Fi, and you get Wi-Fi, and you get Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, hackathons are really fun. I haven't attended one recently.
Honestly, we need to do another one if we can.
want it. Me and Kyle almost.
All
me
three
and
of
Kyle
us
were
should-
gonna do a game jam.
A whole
would be
pile
fun
of us,
too.
all of the casual coders, should get together and do a hackathon. At
The
some
problem
point
is that most hackathons require you to be college aged.
And or 1 year graduated college.
And or what?
With like you graduated college within the past year.
Oh, really?
Okay, so yeah, so Kyle and Alex would be ineligible.
Yeah, we would have just become ineligible.
Yeah,
That's
Quentin, I think, could probably get away with saying I'm going to attend college and then just not say.
Yeah, it depends on. So basically, also for people who don't
I thought
know
that there-
where hackathons are, is pretty much every single college that is tech based has their own one at this point. And if they don't, just Google another tech college and they're likely to have it.
Ours
Like
kind of died when you and the other guys left the.
No, I disagree. It still exists today.
Does it still exist?
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't heard
100%.
anything about it.
Yeah, they don't host a hackathon the past couple years because
COVID.
Yeah. So almost all hackathons as of right now, even until today, I think, are all still virtual.
Yeah. That is the really unfortunate part about that.
If you want
yeah.
if you want the video game equivalent of a hackathon, you do a game jam. Now those are almost always virtual, especially the ones
Yeah,
that.
it depends though. Those used to be some of them used to be in person.
Well,
but
the ones
the
that me
biggest
and-
one is virtual.
Yeah, the one that me and Kyle were going to participate in is the biggest one. We were going to
Yeah.
participate, but we never ended up doing it. Which even then, did you ever see the theme of it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was very interested in seeing something. It was called the theme was out of control.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. I don't know how we would have done that.
Yeah. So
but
what device would you make with that theme? Out of control. You know,
out of
or-
control. Yeah.
Oh, like, was it actually making a device?
No, it was-
sorry.
it was
This
a
was a
game
game
jam.
in particular, but
It was a game jam. It was a very interesting game
yeah,
jam.
it's pretty interesting.
But anyway, any other questions?
Next thing, instead of a gun, how would a flamethrower?
That's.
That would
I don't think that's
theoretically-
illegal. I actually think that would
I'm
be.
pretty yeah, that should be just fine, and it should be basically the same thing. All you got to do is replace the airline with propane, and you're good to go.
I'm still not doing it. Sorry, that's too dangerous.
I'll do it.
Okay, have fun.
Can you put this in my
I-
lawn to make the squirrels go away?
That's someone's.
There it is.
There's actually a horror cascade for detecting cats' faces. I wonder if we can train one to detect squirrel faces.
Or just detect a squirrel in general.
There
I don't
is
know.
someone who made this device that it had a cat door that the cat would come in and out of for his
and
house.
like RFID reading or something.
His cat would always bring him in dead mice.
Oh.
And he got tired of it, especially when one time he was in the form of he was doing some things that with a significant other, and a cat just comes over and plops the dead mouse right in the bed, which promptly stopped what he was doing. So he was determined then, and he attached to the cat door a camera
Camera, yeah.
that if the cat is holding a mouse, it won't open the cat door. And so the cat has to go and drop it, and then they'll let the cat in.
Oh, that's
It's
funny.
really
I guess horny is a good motivator.
Yes.
Oh god.
Yeah, crazy.
There you go. If you need a new project,
Well, I have a similar project that I want us to do as a group, which I'll just pitch it right now. And if anyone in the comments wants to leave opinions, that'd be cool. I want to build. So we have an issue with the dogs eating in the trash can. I think I told this to you.
oh,
already,
I
Kyle.
remember this. Yeah.
But I'm gonna still pitch it again anyway. We're gonna set up a camera pointing at the trash can. We're gonna train an AI to detect when the dog is trying to get into the trash can, and then have a Bluetooth speaker yell at the dog.
No. Stop doing that.
Stop it! Either that, or even hook this thing up with a spray bottle and spray the dog.
Spritz.
Yeah, you could probably find an easy way to run water through it just fine. It's all brass and
Now
everything.
that I would do. I
Yeah.
would definitely convert this over to.
Oh,
a
a squirt
water.
gun. There you
A
go.
squirt gun,
Yeah,
yeah.
instead of water.
I think I have it running all the time in the office.
We can throw liquid nitrogen through it.
Actually, if you it's actually safer to not wear gloves when working with liquid nitrogen. Did you know that?
Leidenfrost effect.
I've
Yep.
heard it, but I have not confirmed myself.
Well, we should do that as a video.
Where are we gonna get? Well, I guess there's a welding.
I know where
supply
to
store
get
local.
dry ice.
If there's a will, there's a
I'm not
way.
gonna say where, but on the camera,
I'm-
but I know where to get dry ice.
We can
What?
probably get it from get liquid nitrogen from a welding supply company. The problem is that you sort of need a place to put it. They generally don't sell it to you if you just have a thermos. You need a special liquid nitrogen canister thing.
Correct, you do. So when I was in high school. Well, I
Unless
wasn't-
you have one, because you're the guy of connections. So
yeah, or my dad might have one.
okay, yep.
But anyway, so when I was in high school, I took chemistry class. If I'm honest, I was bored the whole time because while my dad is a chemist, so I grew up around chemistry and everything. So this class was like, whatever. I've seen all this before. This is boring. But anyway, he brought in dry ice one day, and I go, "Ooh, we get to play with dry ice." And I go, and of course, he wasn't going to tell a 17-year-old kid where to get dry ice. But I go, "Where did you get that from?" And he goes, "The drive-thru." And I go, "What?" And I'm like, what do you mean there's a drive-through that sells dry ice? And I'm like, yes, but you're not old enough to buy it, so I'm not telling you where it is. And now I got to find it.
Goes over my head. I don't know. What about attaching a laser pointer and or a laser to it?
That would not increase accuracy. It would just look cool.
Or we could use that green laser that I have that will instantly blind you. There you go.
No, instead of it's like the one. It's just a Michael Reeves video then.
I don't know if that probably violates some form of federal law. It might be a felony.
Well, no, he
You're
did.
saying Michael Reeves' first video is a felony?
Wait, what?
No, his first video he used
like
OpenCV with facial detection to make a robot that just shoots you in the eye with a laser.
Yeah, but did he use a laser that will legitimately?
No, he just used like a shitter
actually
Walmart.
make you instantly blind.
No, he used like a shitter Walmart laser.
Yeah,
pointer.
I think there's a distinction there.
That's probably falls under the Laws Act.
Yeah, something. I don't know.
As a case in point of like doing projects, even though other people have already done them, I think for a lot of my projects I want to do, they might be Michael Reeves spoofs just because it'd be so cool to just make my own version of something he's done.
We tried to do an LTT spoof, but it never ended up working out.
Yeah, rested pepperonis.
By spoof, I just mean like I want to make something that has already been made.
I don't know.
Michael Reeves made a thing. I want to make the same thing.
We already talked about this. Making something that's already been made is just fine.
It's fine. I mean, if we show it off and it's better, who cares?
Remember, no idea is ever original. Not anymore. No idea you ever have is original. It's already been thought of before.
You just have to
by
show it
someone
louder.
way before you. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good thing with the Hyperloop, or the underground vacuum train, which is
already a thing.
It's an idea that's been around for at least 100 years.
Ever been to New York, nerd? No, sorry.
No, it's already been a thing that was.
I know.
Yeah, the idea was 100 years old or whatever, and you just give it a new name, and
yeah, but now he has lots of money to throw at it too.
Even though it's never gonna happen, and like the company,
I hope it does.
The company
I really
is
do.
finally bleeding dry. They recently cut like half their staff.
That sucks.
No, it doesn't. It's an unfeasible idea. Have you seen the Mythbusters episode?
Which one?
Where they drop a rock on top of a vacuum compressed train car. A big steel tube.
Oh.
With a vacuum like compression inside of it, right? Where they sucked out all the air. And they drop like a pebble on it or a stone. And the whole thing collapses when it gets slightly dented. Imagine, for instance, a car hitting the pillar where your train is flying at 600 miles an hour, and the whole tube collapses, and everyone dies.
I was under the impression that the only part that the tube was the car would form a perfect seal around the tube, and the only actual vacuum would be
no, they wanted to
in
make
front of it, and then from there the vacuum would suck it in that direction.
No, they wanted to make a however many 1,000-mile
they would effectively make a
vacuum
vacuum
tube.
gun.
They wanted to make a however many mile-long vacuum tube and then run trains in it.
We should make a vacuum gun as a video.
Do you know how unfeasible that is?
I know I guess, yeah,
how
that makes
many
more
vacuum
sense.
pumps would you need to vacuum that down? Every time you're putting a train in, you have to vacuum that down again. Vacuum takes a long time.
Well, yeah, then there's the vacuum tube of the train, but then the train itself would have to be pressurized, which means that
Don't forget, expanding and contracting metals. Basically, it's a shit show. Anyway, moving on.
I still think a vacuum gun would be a fun video.
It could be an interesting one. Yeah, sure.
You ever make a vacuum gun before?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Seen them.
You know the
Easy
concept.
enough. I'm
Yeah,
well
it's not that
aware,
hard. Yeah.
Maybe we should briefly explain the concept for our viewers.
Yeah,
you take a long piece of PVC pipe, you put like an aluminum foil cap on the ends.
Oh yeah, both sides.
Both sides. You suck it down with a vacuum.
Well, first, before you put the aluminum caps on, you usually put a ping pong ball in it.
Yeah, ping pong ball or a tennis ball or some form of projectile in there. And then you puncture one end and
the opposite end that the ball is going to fly out of.
Yeah, a whole bunch of air rushes in and propels the ball out the other end and bursts the other side disc.
Yeah, and it's pretty quick. They can break the sound barrier sometimes. Yeah, they're pretty fast.
They're cool.
All right, Kyle.
Tracer bullets?
We would have to add a UV injector. So how tracers work in Airsoft is that the BBs themselves would have to be a UV sensitive plastic or have some sort of UV sensitive dye in them.
A UV. Oh, nice.
It's front heavy.
Yeah, I thought you could just use a UV light like around the front of the barrel. As sort of.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Right?
You have to have a UV light at the front of the barrel that just shines it with a bunch of UV, and then when it shoots out, it's a tracer.
I mean, that's easy enough, but it's just added cost.
Yeah, and complexity and weight.
Prototype.
Next question, if you can find one.
Why is it front heavy?
Because the barrel is made of metal. And
no, it's front heavy because we don't have the airline on it.
Oh, yeah, when the airline's on it, it's pretty
balances
balanced.
that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because because the airline's a heavy like brass fitted like
It's
tube.
brass fitting, and it's got like it's like 1/4-inch thick rubber tube.
I mean, it's got to support 120 psi. If you've ever dealt with compressed air, 120 psi is nothing to like.
It's not a lot, but it's not an insignificant
It's not a lot, but it'll
amount.
still blow your hand off if you fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other fun questions, comments, concerns?
A lot of references, of course.
Of
Walter
course.
White, TF2, Portal,
Call of
Breaking
Duty.
Bad, question mark.
That's Walter
I
White.
don't
Breaking
know.
Bad, same
Oh,
thing.
I see.
Yeah, the last episode of the show, he made like turrets to guard his stash or whatever.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
fun. Why don't you add a camera?
We already have
Done.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. Older video, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't actually see the camera, which is interesting, or they weren't paying attention.
They didn't
Yeah,
realize it
because
was a
one
camera.
video got 12 million views and all the others
Can we
got-
talk about? Okay, so if Kyle's not gonna find one. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about, like a comment that we
Alrighty.
got, and that was so we've gotten multiple comments along the lines of, "Oh man, you guys seem really cool to hang out with. I wish I had friends like yours." And I'm like, "Ah."
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, on the one hand, I guess we're really lucky in that regard, where we have found a group of friends. I guess college really helped that we found a group of friends who are into the same kind of projects and stuff and want to grow as developers and as engineers. But like,
Yeah, I mean, before I met Kyle, I definitely had less. I was less ambitious. I was more content with where I was, and I don't know. Kyle has shifted me to really start pushing to grow my knowledge and grow my experience. And
yeah, Kyle's not the
learn
only
new
person in my circle of
things
friends who
and-
does the same thing. Like, it's the
Yeah.
entire circle of friends I met through Cam and Kyle is like, they're like that. They're like super into self-improvement.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's their whole moniker.
And Kyle's all, if
basically.
I'm not doing something, my time is wasted. And I used to be like, yeah, man, I'll just spend all afternoon on YouTube, whatever. But now
No,
it's like,
I
no,
can't.
I want
I
to
hate-
spend time.
I'm okay
actually
with spending an
working on
afternoon
things.
on YouTube if I'm learning.
Occasionally, I like to watch mindless stuff. Like, for example, like this morning while I was drinking my morning coffee and idly scrolling through our videos, like labeling them, I was watching a YouTube video in the background. But I was still doing something productive.
The other thing that's really hard too is like when there's a camera in play, we try to showcase the most interesting things that would be the most interesting to most people, you know? So you see
That's
the
also
absolute
true,
highlights,
yeah.
you know? There's a lot of time when we're sitting down and
there's
we're,
tons of hours of footage that we have to scroll through. It's so boring.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
like-
know. I think a great example of that is probably on the video that released last month, the TV video. I spent, I don't know, it was probably a solid 8 hours sitting at a table with an X-Acto knife, cutting tiny strips of tape,
Yeah, by
trying
himself.
to get the thing working. How are you going to put that in a YouTube video? Nobody wants to sit and watch me cut little strips of tape for 8 hours. So all of that gets cut. It's gone. You don't see it. And, you know.
We're by doing this channel, we have had a new appreciation for our science YouTubers that we are inspired by.
I've always had a pretty good appreciation. But I
I
this
did
definitely
have an
helps.
appreciation, but this has like
This-
significantly increased that. Like, I understand Mr. Beast and Mark Rober, the scale of their productions.
Oh,
And I-
yeah.
and I also understand
yeah.
how difficult the smaller ones like Nile Red and Alan Pan and William Osman.
Yeah, those ones are not really
They're not small
anymore.
but that's like basically just them and their friends who do it, which is kind of how I want Casual Coders to be. But I figured instead of us starting 5 channels, it would be a lot more easier with us all having us all having full-time jobs to have one channel where we all just kind of split the work.
Yep.
And that was my original idea. But yeah, it's like we're really lucky in that regard of having a group of close friends who can do this kind of stuff with.
Yeah.
And also Kyle having lots of fun toys.
Yeah.
yeah,
That definitely helps.
This also
for
operated
sure.
as a way to like force people who like this kind of thing to come together and do stuff. You know, like I've had friends also who are outside of the Casual Coders who are like, oh yeah, I'd love to come over and like just do something. You know, it's something that can be done, which normally when people get together, it's to do something. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
to be fair, I'm like perfectly fine with having like other people from outside of the Casual Coders group help us participate. Because originally Alex was an outsider.
Yeah, for sure.
Originally it was just us and Quentin only did the podcast and stuff. Now he's getting involved in projects. Now Alex is, again, mostly the podcast, but he's getting involved in projects as well. Like, we're involving more and more people every day. And I think that by having more help, we're going to be able to pump out more and more high quality content, allowing us to grow as a company and grow as a group.
Yeah. Consistency is hard, but I think it's going to be the key.
It is
to
hard.
success.
We have not been very consistent for our first 6 months of involvement. However, even with that inconsistent, we are at, as Kyle and I discussed, we're at like we're in the 99th percentile of like, or whatever the better one is, 1% or 99th percentile of like YouTubers and creators.
I think those are the same, right? The 1% is the highest, and the 99th percentile is also the highest. Because the 1 percentile is everybody, basically. And the 99th percentile is everyone, or is like 3 people. And the 1% are, the 1% highest. If you're in the 99%, you're in with everybody else.
Yeah, we're like super high on the ranking, which I was so surprised about.
I mean, because you guys made a cool thing.
And it feels so weird.
It's this thing's fault.
Yeah, I know. And it feels so weird because we're still so small.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be really interesting if, in the long run, we end up being, for example, not red-sized, and looking back at this podcast right now and being like, wow, this is where we were, and I wonder where we'll be in comparison.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I think if we keep doing the cooler projects and everything that people want to see, like our growth is only going to be exponential. It's going to keep increasing. That also means that our quality has to be exponential, and we have to increase quality and increase frequency, and that's where a bunch of difficult stuff starts coming into play, because we all have full-time jobs.
We all have full-time jobs.
None of us want to quit them.
Yeah, I have no plans of quitting my job in order to work on YouTube. Look, YouTube is far too unsustainable.
But if a year comes around and we're able to produce content full-time, or have 1 or 2 of us quit our jobs and work on content full-time, I know one of us has expressed interest in it. I'm sure, depending on who it, like someone else can.
Or bring in a third party, hire a full-time editor, whatever, yeah.
Well, that's different. They'd be our employee, basically, but yeah.
That's okay. We can have employees as a company.
If we get to that point, yes. Yeah. Anyway.
Any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts? I don't think I have any. So thank you guys for listening. We got a little bit off topic in the middle, but that's okay. We hope you guys...
That's how the sort of thing goes.
Yeah, that's how the sort of thing goes. But this podcast will be releasing with the video that goes with the turret. So,
as in, like, if someone somehow finds this and has not seen the turret, they should go watch it?
Definitely should go watch it. The link will be in the description.
Probably should have started with that.
Well, I did start with that. I said this is the companion to it.
What? Okay, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, anyway.
We should have started with the fact that you should go watch the turret video if you haven't seen this already. But
yeah, all right. Well, thank you guys for watching.